Doooovid here. We are live with my new friend and fellow Crazy House enthusiast and streamer, JoannaTries, a regular streamer on Twitch and lichess. I find her playing quite often and streaming her own commentary. And we came across each
Streamer
other
on
on the battlefield
chess.
as
I'm playing quite often.
competition. We played each other quite a few times. And so speaking offline, friends on Facebook, and so actually maybe soon she'll get into the debate circuit. Also, I think I'm going to let her introduce herself, but I think she's got a background in biology and theories on evolution. But I'll leave that up to her. But we're just talking about chess strategy, so I just said let's do a stream and go over some of our games and talk about chess improvement. And I looked at a few of her games, and she's a pretty good player, like 17, 1800 strength on Crazy House. She's beaten me a handful of times. But hopefully I found a few things in her games that might be able to improve and just put it out there for anybody. And Joanna is also a chess coach and, working together with Pepe, who is about my strength. I've came up with him in different battles on lichess, and they have a chess school together. So I'll let Joanna give whatever biographical introduction that she wants to give about her chess play or her love of Crazy House and chess coaching in general. Then we'll jump right into some Crazy House games.
Thanks, David. So yeah, I'm Joanna. I'm primarily a freelance writer and young adult author, but we just opened a chess school earlier this year, and I started playing standard chess when I was about 5, not very seriously. And a couple of years ago, I fell madly in love with Crazy House. So I'm trying to improve that. I'm having trouble going back to standard chess. It's quite addictive. So I'm excited to learn and hopefully develop my skills. Thanks for having me.
Okay, great. So let me do a screen share. I'll open with sharing an opening line that I developed. I showed last time with Igor and Zaraza, and then hopefully we'll look at some of Joanna's game. And yeah, I've coached chess. I've mentioned on my channel many times. Like in Detroit, I have a lot of stuff that like I lost my enjoyment of chess. Like I played, I competed as a youth, and then when I came back to Michigan and Detroit, I basically wanted to do a volunteer activity and give back. And even though I was about 2,000 strength, which isn't that great, for competing as an adult, it was good enough to coach. So I ended up coaching in the beginning for pay because I needed to, make a little bit of money. And All the King's Men, Dr. Ed Mandel, put me on staff, and making significantly more money coaching chess than I would have at other sources. And then as a volunteer activity, mostly in Detroit, the Detroit City Chess Club, and I have a lot of stuff on YouTube, and we've had quite good results. We have a big team of people coaching and produced, state champions, and I've been part of teams that have coached hundreds of people now, and I have my own theories on coaching, and I've done whole series on the science of expertise and my multiple truth hypothesis. So hopefully, we'll people who have been following my content will see a little of that in play, and what's the because I don't really enjoy chess, honestly. Like I play chess occasionally, coach more as a good deed, but I don't have any enjoyment in the game. And the competition kind of draws away. But I found enjoyment in variance, and so like Joanna, I really like this Crazy House variant where when you take a piece, kind of like single board bug house, it comes back on the board. So just a quick example. This is against you see Blitzer, one of the regular players, French player. The lichess is a French server. You can see we've played 118 games, and he currently is up on me 60 and a half to 57 and a half, although I think I've improved. So I've been getting some victories more recently, and he plays the French. He's a French player, and he plays the French almost every game. And I have developed my own line that basically no one else has ever played, with some computer analysis. And the interesting thing about Crazy House is you could see, you'll hear, basic threat. He's threatening twice on C3. But you could see castle is the most popular move. Opening book. Um, do you use opening book, Joanna, or are you familiar with that?
Theory, opening theory?
No, opening book on lichess. You see down here where it
Oh,
has.
no, I've never used it.
Okay, so I'm going to explain the basics of using the computer and analyzing your games to get better. And we're going to go over a few of Joanna's games, and it'll be obvious. And I was mentioning there's multiple aspects, so to say, low hanging fruit of easy things you could do to improve your game. And one of them is just using opening books. So at this point here, you have the settings for rating. So it's only set to show games over 2200. And you could see in the French here, this is a very common line. It's in fact the single most common line. And sacking the pawn here, castles, and then uh, bishop takes knight, pawn takes knight, knight takes pawn is the single most common variation in the French. 8 moves out. You could see of about 5,000 plus games, um, or of the French of about 10,000 plus games, about 5,000 of them end up in this position. So that you can see, I'll put on the computer analysis, but opening book down here just shows, and you can control for rating. So you could show all rating levels or just higher rating levels or the time control. It just shows the number of games that have been played and the win-loss ratio. So here you can see in this position, bishop g5 is played almost 60% of the time. Is played 4,109 times. The next one, Queen E1, has been played 790 times, and this is with people with ratings over 2,200. And then you can see the win-loss ratio where bishop g5, sacrificing the queen or initiating queen trade, gives white a win ratio of 59%. So does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that's a useful tool.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll look at some of this with Joanna's games, and you will see the basic improvement. Like I said, like I think Joanna could probably get to 2,000 crazy house within 6 months, and she could probably put on 100 rating points, maybe even within the next few weeks with just some of these basic tightening up her game and using the analysis tools that already exist to do that. I'm going to show her how to do that, and this would be the same for anybody and regular chess also, so that any of these techniques would basically work for any of the variants, and it's really just a method of problem solving in general. So in this game, here you see I've castled already, and he's threatening to take the queen. He played bishop g5, um, and black most often takes the queen, and then white takes black's queen. And because this is crazy house, like bug house, this means that there's substantial material now off the board to place. And black almost always plays um, at e4. There's other moves that are not really any good. So I mean, you could see that black has played knight f2, knight xf2, 430 times at master play, but that's already uh, you know significantly better for white. The win percentage 63%. At e4, using the pawn is the most logical move. Use the pawn right away. Get a pin on e4, threatening d3 and f3, and taking the knight to crash open the kingside pawn structure, blocking the bishop off from any possible benefits. And then there's a whole bunch of moves. The most common move usually is bishop b5. And because if bishop b5, if there's a mate in one threat of queen at e7 because now the knight is pinned. And but there's another move that I found from opening book. That's the number one computer recommended line: queen at g5, and threatening the g7 pawn, a little bit of defense, and white has multiple moves here. The most common, uh, actually, the move that Blitzer plays. Some people, will just take the knight, and but he played knight at f5, which is, logical. It defends the mate square a second time on e7, defends g7, and puts the knight in a nice central position. And rook x a1 is the most common move in this position, which according to computers better for white, although black has higher win rate in this position. Then you could just take the knight. So you can see this line hasn't been played that many times. So bishop at b5, which normally you would think just to play bishop here, which would be quite logical, but it's not very good. Then you could just play exf3, and the knight is already doubled defending on e7 for the mate. So you could play exf3 here, and for black, but Blitzer has been playing, I guess, an obvious move just to kick the queen, and it's a very interesting line here because it's a queen sack, and the move being just queen x g7. I saw this in the computer, like in a game, and as a computer recommendation, the computer says it's the best move to play, and so I gave it a try. And you can see it's only been played 5 times. CIW played it once, and I played against Zycon and lost, but I misplayed it. And the idea here after knight x queen is just pawn at e7. And it's a real zugzwang position here because, as you can see, white now is down a whole 2 queens that are off the board, and it's black's move, and white doesn't have any material. And the pawn is still forking the d3 bishop and f3 knight. Although the catch is that white is instantly threatening checkmate because bishop x knight is check, and then the knight could be placed right down at f6. So it's a very cute line, and black's in quite a bit of danger. Black has to do something to defend against the mate instantly, and the most logical move is knight h5, which has been played every single time, and knight at h5. Now the knight is defending both f6 and g7 mating squares, and so white every time here just picks up the knight, and you can see I beat Blitzer one game here. He played just the air. He played e takes f3, and then there's a forced mate, bishop takes c6, and if he takes back, then it's a double knight mate because there's 2 squares and only one defending, and so you play the knight check and he has to take, or king there and the other knight mate. So Blitzer actually walked into that mate one time, so he walked right into my prep, and I got the cute mate. I shared that in our Facebook group. And queen at g4 is the most common move. Here he played in this game rook g8, which is, I guess, he beat me with that one time, and I didn't know what to do. So it's ironic here in this position for white that the move is knight e1. So this is really pretty crazy strategy that you're looking here, and black has 2 queens off the board. Like rook x g2 is almost a checkmate threat. The knight is defending the checkmate squares. I've picked up the second knight, so now he has the rook defending 1. And at this point, the only move for white to play and keep an advantage is knight e1 to just retreat. And then it's interesting. Black is somewhat in a zugzwang here. What does black do to advance the position? So I don't even have a threat right now in the position. I could try like bishop takes pawn. So to some extent, white has a free move, and he had tried queen at g4, but it's interesting. You're just taking the bishop. Logical, makes sense, and it's a funny move here. Your rook d3, rook takes pawn. Now it's an extra pawn, but there's still like that could possibly go on h7, and so he chose queen at e2, which I forgot my prep. The it's really a crazy move here to play rook at g3 here, and you see the threats coming on because if a rook takes rook, you take back, and the bishop is threatening the queen, and this is basically game over. White's going to win in a few moves, basically no matter what. But I forgot my prep, and I played knight at f4, which is a crazy move because the knights he could just take the knight, and he can't take the knight because then I take the knight and place it back at f6 mate, and so really he has to sack the queen here. And I take back, and he doesn't really have anything. So he plays the rook back, rook there. I have to sack my queen back. He could take, um, but he doesn't have anything. Like because my knight back on e1 defends the crucial g2 square, and with two queens off the board and bishop, he really has no way to defend. It's basically over. He played queen at b4, which I guess is giving an x-ray defense of f8, and also threatening taking on e1. And so I took the knight, and I guess rook at f8 was winning. I was scared that it wasn't winning, that he would come back with the queen, and I guess just at e7 was good enough to win. So I got a little bit scared, and so I just played c3, and he's in a lot of trouble here. Here the computer is saying, he should really place his other queen on the board, but he plays queen b1, and then I just have an easy mate placing the rook down, and he has to run, allowing me to queen. So if he moves his king up, then I could take the knight with check. If he moves over, I get I get to get another queen, and then a nice kind of smothered mate. If he had blocked, I would have and he resigned. So I thought that was, as I mentioned to Zaraza, high level chess is basically completely won in preparation. It's like Church of Entropy and debate. A debate is also mostly won in preparation. But Blitzer is a top player. You see, in the beginning, he was beating me quite often, and my victories against him have largely been preparation. And you can see, I even shared that in our group, and you could see that Blitzer, I guess, is not paying attention to what I shared in our Crazy House group, and walked straight into my trap, so to say. So I thought that was pretty cute, a pretty good game.
Very nice.
So let's look at some of Joanna's games. So just here on like she only plays Crazy House. I don't know. Maybe so. And you actually played quite a few games of Crazy House. You played, but let's just look at your very last one, and we'll leave opening book and the computer analysis on.
Okay.
And anyone who's seen, basically what you have to do to get better at chess is what is called focused learning, or some sort of mental effort in your learning, which is most seen through going over games. And the evidence has shown quite clearly that you don't actually get better just by playing a lot. Like playing. I mean, in the beginning you might learn, but you have to have what's called focused study, deliberate practice, what I think is the technical term in psychology they use. And it's the same for expertise of any field, like music, mathematics, like the Ericsson 10,000 hour heuristic. Have you heard of the 10,000 hour
Yeah, the
heuristic?
10,000 hour rule and become a master after 10,000 hours.
Yeah, so it's 10,000 hours of deliberate practice, not 10,000 hours of play.
Okay.
And there's actually been significant evidence to show just playing, you usually plateau and get a little bit worse. So if you just play a lot, maybe like Joanna, maybe you reach like 1,700, and then you just plateau and don't get any better. And you have to do deliberate practice in order to get better. and you could do, there's multiple methods of deliberate practice. You could be tactic puzzles, opening studies, but usually the most important of the various methods of deliberate practice is going over your game. So as I played Joanna a few times, she's a more than Zaraza. She's an aggressive player and likes to sack the bishop for the pawn right away. Although interesting here that you follow it up with e3. I've seen you do that to me, which is um, if you look, it's not that common in opening book, like the e3. According to the computer, um, it's not even in the top 5 best moves to play at e3. I mean, the utility of it obviously is you're preparing d4 and you're protecting against the bishop threat on f2. And the obvious downside is you're blocking off your own bishop. So where'd you come up with this at e3 idea?
I don't know. I just started doing it.
Because
It's become a habit autopilot that I'm trying to get rid of.
yeah, so that's the point. Like, you know thyself through playing chess, and a lot of times, like, why do I do things? Why I do things because whatever. That's my uh, parental training or nature nurture. That's just what I did, and then the most natural thing for a person to do is to repeat what they're already doing.
Right.
And so, however, a person came to do what they're doing, and you're talking like um, I had rabbinic training or something like character refinement, like religious background, like I want to avoid getting angry or jealousy or any of these things. And so if you say the natural inclination is just, whatever, to be angry, to be jealous, to whatever any of these things are, like why the person get angry? Because it's the natural inclination. And unless they cognitively make an effort to change that, they're likely to keep on falling into the same uh, pattern. Uh, but so chess is interesting. If you don't go over your games, you're likely to just keep on doing the same thing. So, like I showed, like Metin, I beat him like 10 times in a row, and he kept on walking into the same thing. And then he finally changed it. Most players will just keep on doing the same thing, and until they actually analyze their game or have some sort, maybe lose like 10 games in a row, will actually get so tired of losing that they try something different, as opposed to proactively studying and looking at it and just saying, okay, Joanna's playing at e3 here in this regular variation. I assume, do you get this position for white almost like 1 out of 3 games?
Yeah, it's pretty frequent.
I showed in the other video, some, this is, I mean, this is one of the most common lines. And even here, bishop takes f7 is not recommended. Usually I play like d3 and castle and then knight g5, but usually a knight g5 or bishop g5 is the most common. Marlon, the head of the German team, will sack the bishop sometimes, uh, and he's actually top 50 player, um, but it's technically an inferior move, and then black is in a slightly better position here. And then Marlin in this will play the at d5, which is the superior method. If you look at the computer line in this position, where Joanna is playing at e3, um, which has only been played 50 times in master play, at d5 has been played almost 2,500 times, and you can see the computer evaluation. And the advantage of playing at d5 is obvious because you're threatening the knight, and if the knight moves, then you can play knight takes e5 with check, and so um, that's something to consider, that this position at e3. But so just this is her most recent game, and she loses this game. And so here, even at d4 again is your, well, here not d5 is recommended. You're just looking at the computer analysis that, like, obviously the pin on the knight is annoying, and h3 is a logical move, but it's an inferior move, and it causes the evaluation to go down significantly. And after these trades, um, even though the black king is exposed on f7, um, white could be in more trouble than black. Computer even recommends d5 to open up the bishop right away, which is more aggressive than d6. But her opponent chooses a logical, just the self castle, which isn't the greatest move. So you can see it's already basically an even game. Bishop a3, it's the computer, obviously a logical move, just attacking the rook, developing the pieces. Because she played at e3, the bishop is unlikely to get active on the c1 h6 diagonal. So a3 is very logical. D6 very logical. Block the bishop. Open up the c8 bishop, and so God forbid Patzer see a check, Patzer plays a check. But so it's interesting. The bishop at b3 or c4 is better because the knight blocking, or even at um, I guess you want the knight. So I mean, Joanna's logic is pretty clear, even though the computer analysis says it's not the best of opportunities. But you play the check, fork the knight, and then block, and then take off the knight. And she could have put the knight right back at g4, g5, but it doesn't really do that much. So she decided to try to open up the game as much as possible, focus on the light squares immediate for the king, and but really your opponent could have just taken the pawn, and so at this point black has a significant advantage, is almost -10 because black is self-castled, is up material, and white's king is in more danger than black. And um, but Joanna going straight for the attack, which is pretty good crazy house strategy, just to attack. Like when in doubt, just attack. You could try defending. Defending is very difficult, and in crazy house, many times the best attack is the best defense strategy is to attack. But here the trades may not benefit her because um, although
Is there no forced mate at this point? With all the
for who?
material, for me, when it's my move after he takes back, or we initiates a queen trade.
Well,
What
no, I mean,
material I have? There's nothing that could be done.
you see, you only have one check.
Oh, I only have one knight too. Never mind.
Well, even if you had more than one knight, but I'm saying your only check is um, at h6, which is a powerful threat. But the f7 square is defended. The knight on f6,
Yeah.
you could take a rook to prevent the smothered. So I mean, you probably played here. It's it's saying you should play a rook on the g file, to put more pressure on the open file and give a little bit of a defense. I mean, at e2, at e7 is a very good strategy generally. Just place a pawn, threaten to take the rook, the only uh, uh, diagonal, the only heavy piece left on the 8th rank, to remove that. And so you actually did have a mate here, and I guess you play it. But here black could actually manage, and says there's a mate in 10 starting with knight at g2. And I guess if king at f1, then you could you take the knight here and place a pawn, and then the knight. So it's a pretty straightforward mate. And if the king went up, um, then I mean, there's a second knight to play at f5 here. I guess the king might run that way. So it's recommending to block this file with the bishop first. Um, but so actually, her opponent messes up, and she almost So I didn't look at this game in advance, but logical. So he just doesn't want to give up the rook for nothing, so moves it over. Although in reality, that leaves her with a mate in 5. Pawn takes, and
The queen. I should have dropped the queen. I knew that when I was playing. I should have done the queen to have that
well,
diagonal covered, so I can drop a bishop.
actually, the simple mate here is sometimes hard to see because the idea is um, bishop at e7,
Oh,
and if the king takes, then you could drop the queen at d8, leaving the only square at f7, then knight h8 mate. So
oh, nice. Okay.
sometimes these kind of like forced sacrifice of bishop at e7 is hard to see. I might not have seen that without the computer analysis. And then if if instead of taking it, you go up, it's still the same knight at h8. So I mean, the idea is pretty simple that if that the knight on when the king goes to f7, the knight on h8 is going to cover g6 and f7, and the queen on d8 is going to cover all the squares on the back rank. But queen queen at d8 isn't that great either. So knight at g6, um, I guess also works because the same bishop at e7, but it's only the bishop at e7. So if you didn't see the bishop at e7, you're in some trouble there.
Okay.
And so you still have actually mate here. Um,
Oh,
but your mate is always this bishop at e7 idea. So it's interesting. So even here, you still have bishop at e7, and then here you have knight at c6. And the
uh,
idea is if he moves the bishop to take, then the queen at f8 is now mate because the rook is defended. So it's a little bit hard to see these kind of um, to visualize. So you from like a cognitive level, one of the benefits of chess is visualization skills. So if you're looking like bishop e7 is a counterintuitive move because now you have to sacrifice another piece, um, and the benefit of sacrificing that other piece is that it can't be taken because now the queen at f8 defends the rook because the bishop has moved. So it'd be like a one of the visualization skills. Uh, but without noticing that bishop at f7, bishop at e7, you actually don't have mate, and your checks are about to run out.
yeah.
I guess king takes was better, and so here, I guess bishop at e7, you still might have had something, but at this point, you basically have to sacrifice. You could have done like a bishop, at b4, a3, but that you probably would have just blocked at d6. So you give up the checks, and once you give up the checks, so it's funny he decides to defend. So queen at c1, um, knight at g2 is probably mating, but he decides to defend, and I guess it's a good enough defense now that even the bishop at e7 doesn't work anymore because the bishop is now defending the knight drop at c6. But you go in for the sacks, and at this point you just don't have enough material that the bishops are covering all the knight squares. So even if you tried bishop at e7, the king takes, and you don't have anywhere to drop a knight. So at this point he finally does a counterattack, and now it's just going to be uh, so it's not mate. He decides to pick up the queen. I mean, he has a simple mate in two with the two knights. Pretty cute. Knight at e4, similar to the game I showed against Blitzer, where you could you just do a knight at e4, and then if you take with f3, oh, actually, it doesn't work like that. So queen at c1, and then you have to play king to e1, and then just taking on d1, or then the knight drop on g2 is a quick mate. But he decides to win the queen, which gives you another chance at the initiative, which you take, but you don't have anything here. You
Yeah.
just don't have enough material to do an attack. And even though he runs his king, like now you don't have anything left. You could do knight at g8, but then he could just the bishop is even defending that square. So if the bishop wasn't defending knight at g8, then you would have to bring your king up, and then you're one pawn short of checkmate. But it's defended anyways. So at this point, he finally plays the mate, and kind of like an efficiency level. So like at this point, so he plays bishop at a3 and then allows you to block. But obviously, bishop at b2 would have been mate right away.
Yeah.
So, do you do that? Do you go over your own games like that?
No, I used to when I first started, and I stopped. I haven't done it in a very long time.
Yes, you really don't improve unless you do that.
Right. Yeah, I see that.
And the evidence is really quite clear that, I mean, going over with a stronger player that might be able to quickly explain and see how you might help. But even just going yourself with the computer analysis, um,
Yeah.
I was watching this game, and this game you won, and um, it's increasing the efficiency of your play. So here, he actually does the knight sack on you, and you just go back and king up. So actually, interesting. King d7 is a much stronger move because you allow knight check, allowing him to pick up the other knight. As with king d7, he doesn't have any really way to attack you there.
Yeah.
Although it could be scary because you have that diagonal open, but you just gotta see he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have any diagonals. He doesn't have any quick way to get diagonals. Um, and then here he's threatening your knight. But so interesting here, like you could see if you're looking at this position, like the logic of your move is obvious. Just kick his knight, get it out of there, and although bishop at um, e2 is a much stronger move, just because it makes an attack right away on his queen and prevents his queen from being able to come out. Or you play bishop at f5. But so I was watching this game the other day. I was just online and I was seeing what games were going on and saw you play. And this move he played was pretty weird. I mean, like he could play just knight at g8, which is a pretty powerful move because you take if you really have no choice but to move king d7. I mean, it's almost over here. Like knight g8, king
Really?
d7, queen g4, and
I have.
you still have knight
Yeah,
at f5
a bishop
or
and a.
or at e6, but like you're in a lot of trouble here, and you could just play
Oh,
knight at
I had
e6,
no
and
sense of danger in that position.
but, but I mean he
But
missed the obvious. I mean, did you see knight at g8?
no.
And obviously, if you take that, then I mean he could take it and make it a knight to keep the check, but just getting the queen is powerful. It's almost game over.
Okay.
But instead he uses and the reality is like he could have played knight at g6 immediately, even like you just like at like king crusher, like weakness of the last move, that when you play h6, now g6 is no longer defended and he has a knight. He could have played just knight at g6 and picked up your rook instantly. So just kind of the training, going over the game, looking at the computer analysis, think like like missing knight at g8 or knight at g6. On your side that h6 was a blunder, and he didn't see either of the best moves to change that. And I mean, his logic is probably interesting. He figures if you play pawn takes knight, he could take the rook with the queen, but like even though he could have just forked and won it. And so I guess your idea of bishop at g6, uh, it's kind of crazy. I mean, one he could just take it. So I mean, if he just plays queen takes g6, I guess you take the knight and then open your rook file, and but he looks pretty weird. I mean, it's interesting that you thought for 10 seconds and he played bishop at g6. I mean, I assume you realized it wasn't defended. So you just wanted to. Uh, so here he
Yeah, I was playing way too fast. I just assumed it was defended.
you just assumed the bishop was defended and
Yeah,
wasn't.
no, it was a complete blunder.
Maybe he did also. So I mean, even here, so he takes the rook,
Yeah.
and you're actually better here. So interesting. Bishop takes f7 is better than king takes, although the logic is obviously if you play king takes, your queen is
Open my
defending the
bishop.
pawn at
Yeah.
g5, as opposed to take with a bishop. Then you could, um, but so um, this is the knight, And so now you're in pretty good shape here. And I guess you could try to do something to make your king a little bit more safe. But or even so God forbid the Patzer sees a check, Patzer plays a check. It's not the worst move, but here just playing the check right away um, isn't the best move. Like knight at f4, trying to build up pressure is probably better. But here it's fine, and so really these at h3. So here it's not the best move, but even just at h3 is a very powerful move because here he could play rook check, but if he takes pawn takes, open up, but you don't have another pawn, so you use your own piece on the board, so that's good. You figure you almost have mate if you could sack on g2, but obviously weakness of the last move, so he plays the check that you allowed him to, and I guess you play at g6. If you play g6, that would open up another check, and then he just takes your knight off, but that walks into some trouble. Now it's actually mate in 3 here. So I was watching the game, and another thing that you work at is precision. So you won this game, but you could have been more precise. So like if he played king at g1, you would have just had to do the knight check to provoke him to take it. So he takes immediately, or I guess you could have taken the rook, whatever reason, and you just fork the king and queen, and instead of Patzer sees the free queen, Patzer takes the free queen.
I didn't drop the pawn there.
No, you did. So good.
Okay.
I was saying, but saying that it would have been tempting to just take the queen, and actually interested if you take the queen here. You still have quite an advantage here, so like it's not like even, but you actually have mate in 2 here. So just at g2, king.
Oh.
And you take the queen with check, and it's like, okay, wow, you're getting the queen with check, but you have another knight there, and you just missed mate in 1.
I see it now.
And so here, and then king at g2, and
now I'm just chasing him.
I guess you're working on more efficient, you demonstrating a more profounder understanding of the game, better play of the game is so even looking at games that you win, you have a better benefit of looking at games that you lose. But even looking at games that you win will benefit your play. In the Talmud, they use a heuristic 1, 4, 20, 100. It's saying if you review something 4 times, you'll recognize it when you see it. If you review something 20 times, one will be able to say it in their own words without prompting. And if you review something 100 times, you could say it word for word. And this is referring to like heuristic for studying a text like Talmud. And so saying if you read it 4 times, if someone mentions it, you'll be like, oh yeah, I've read that before. 20 times you could say it in your own words. 100 times, and it's more heuristic. It's different for different people. But these basic patterns that when you go over your games, eventually you see the patterns enough time, you recognize it when you see it. So if you're in a similar situation like here, and you're like, oh, knight at h3 is just checkmate. And this is a pretty basic mating pattern with the knight defending a pawn and then another knight coming in for the checkmate. So it's saying that if you see this again, hopefully you'll recognize it. And versus if you'd seen it 20 times, maybe you could describe it in your own terms, like if you set up the board and put the pieces in that way, versus reviewing it like 100 times, where you could know straight from the opening. Like my game against Blitzer, where we're talking about preparation for move 20, and I have that basically memorized. I could, out of memory, I could repeat the position out of the French that me and Blitzer got, straight. I could basically repeat the whole game from memory.
Wow.
And but from the heuristic, you don't have to have an exceptionally good memory or be exceptionally intelligent. It's just review. that the more you review something, the more uh, you recognize the pattern, and then to generalize the pattern. So you're not just talking like um, not just in this game where you missed the mate in one, um, but to generalize the pattern that all positions like this, where the knight is guarding the pawn and the king is trapped, that another knight check is mating, and this is extremely common. These double knight mates
Mhm.
on the king. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
assume like even queen sacks. A lot of times you'll have positions where you could sack the queen on g2, and if you have two knights, it's okay because it's mate. Because the two knights, the king can't go back into the corner out of mate, and a lot of times the knights could mate even if the king uh, goes up. So
Oh.
um,
Do you want to play one, or do you want to keep reviewing?
maybe it'd be worthwhile for. Did you want to? Do you have lichess open yourself?
I do. Yes.
So did you want to do a screen share? Maybe if you want to talk through your own game. So like I've analyzed two of your games now, one of my games. So maybe now uh, we'll let you analyze one of your own games out loud, and like I can make basic comments, but just this process of self improvement basically with looking at the computer where you kind of immediately see all the mistakes because the computer basically could say what the best move was and why whatever move we played, even at the highest level, might have been not as good or bad.
Sure.
So if you want to do a screen share and then just pick one of your games and try to talk through your own game. And I'll say this as you get it ready, just as the method. So like, if you had a chess coach and I said like, Joanna's a strong player. Like I work in Michigan, Coach Fight, Ed Mandel. They're about 1,500 players, and they're probably the most prominent coaches in all of Michigan. And you don't have to be an exceptionally. Most chess coaches are probably about 1,200 strength. And in terms of,
Wow. Really?
yeah, I would say your average chess strength of a coach is about 1,200. And I mean, because most beginning players, like 90% of players never get over 1,000, maybe even lower. So, being 1,200 is more than sufficient to coach. Did you want to try that?
Yeah.
Uh, so just click the share screen button at the bottom,
Got
and
it.
then so that I don't have to move. I'll let you move the arrows
All
on
right.
your own game.
All right.
And so, did you have a game? This game with Tommy Tao?
Tommy Tao. Yeah, I played him quite a bit.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's a pretty regular. So just the idea of giving a narrative also, because like memory techniques to just memorize like numbers or symbols versus giving it a narrative
sure.
also helps. So to just talk through like a narrative of your game
Yeah.
and saying saying like me coaching Joanna, so to say, I'm about 500 points stronger than her. Uh, is comparable to her coaching, like 1,000 player or even a 1,200 player, and saying for certainly teaching new players, it's kind of overkill. You don't need someone better than 400, 500 points. If someone's 400 or 500 points better than you, um, anything stronger than that is somewhat diminishing returns. To say that a
Okay.
1,600 coaching 1,000, you could provide probably 80% of the benefit of a master coaching 1,000 players. So, in that sense, these are generalized methods.
Okay. That makes sense. So here I push my pawn, my e pawn. I usually bring out my knight. This is abnormal for me, but I got sick of my knight being chased. Um, and so now I'm just trying to develop my pieces. And then I see this juicy square that I want to exploit his king and bring his king out. King safety is extremely important, and I tend to sack too easily on that. And now I'm just focusing on developing again and trading pieces. I'm really not afraid of this queen trade at all. I don't castle much, and trading. And now I'm ready to attack. I have a lot of pieces. So I do that. I have a feeling I ignore this. Yeah. Well, this wasn't much of a.
So I mean, he kind of just blunders there. And
Yeah.
one thing, when he does the rook check, he walks into you defending with a check. And at that point, for him to keep the initiative, the only thing he could have done would be to sack his rook for the bishop.
Right.
And then he returns the initiative to you.
Yeah. Which. Yeah, that's not where it goes. And so brings his. I wasn't expecting this. So now I have a hanging pawn, and he's just defending. I'm really not as good at explaining this as you. So yeah, I just want to get in there, and
When you understand what you're doing, you would be able to conceptualize it in words. And so part of the point of making you do this is to show you that you don't really know why you're doing what you're doing. And if you did know why you were doing what you were doing, you probably would have chose a better option, so to say. That that's really at all levels. When you're forced to explain why you did what you did, then well, why didn't you make a better decision than the one that you made? And it was because I didn't think about it. If I thought about the better decision, I probably would have chose the better decision that I could have made.
No, yeah, that doing this is bringing out a whole new framework of my thinking. So I'm kind of surprising myself with what I play. I'm definitely I feel more attentive with what I'm doing here. This is terrifying.
Well, you take with the king. I mean, you could have just taken with the bishop. I mean, it would have been.
Then my rook is hanging though.
But I mean, just go back. Like this is a in visualization skill. So play the go forward, one move, queen takes bishop, and just this is one of the generalized skills of visualization. If you want to try arrows, that you play bishop takes queen, and then he plays queen, king takes rook. You have mate in 3, I think. So I mean, you see that he can't play king takes rook. That I mean, one thing you're visualizing that the queen that you take, you'll now be able to place on the board.
Sure.
But that I mean, you could play knight drop. So I mean, but that forces king up, or you could play pawn at h3, and if he runs back, you're going to be able to place the queen at g2 and then take on f2 mate. If he runs up, you just play the queen at g2, and then he has to go to h4, and then you play queen h3, which will be checkmate. And that's a visualization skill. I'm not sure if you followed that. If you wanted to play the moves on the board, so you're controlling it, but you're just to play the moves on the board. Bishop takes queen, and then show why king takes rook is forced checkmate for black.
Oh,
so
maybe
play bishop takes queen.
I don't know how do I get an analysis board? Okay. Bishop
So now
queen. Got this. What does he do?
Well, so if he goes back, then it's going to be mate in 2. I mean, that's mate in 1 with just queen at g2. If he plays the f1, you could play queen at g2 and then take f2 the next move. And if he moves up, it's queen at h3 is mate in 1.
Okay.
So I even said a mate in 2 when there was a mate in 1. And so the visualization skill of visualizing what the position would be like in the head. So you go back to the position, just a simple exercise, and but they're saying that you played king takes queen, which I guess is dangerous. Maybe it's not that bad. You could finish talking through the game, then we'll.
Oh no, I'm done. I think it'd be better if I watch you. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, because the double check.
Yeah, the double.
That he can't take. So why don't you go back up and put the computer analysis on now also?
Okay. Is it the target?
Okay, so the 3 lines.
Ah, okay.
And then if you put
Infinite analysis.
no, I think it's um I think you want the number of moves. So I guess in the top one, yeah. So that gives you the
Ah,
computer
okay.
recommended moves. And if you click on the book at the bottom left,
Hmm.
click on that. Oh, okay. So go back up. So now just click the up arrow once. You might have to click on a move. Click on a move and then click the up arrow, take you to the beginning. So now you have opening book out there. So that book, the icon in the lower left is opening book. So if you click on that again, you see it disappears. Then you click on it, that's opening book, and so that shows you the other games and the percentage. And now you have computer analysis. So why
Oh,
don't you go through the game again and just noticing the computer analysis and opening book.
okay. Oh, this is nice. And so the thicker the arrow, the stronger the move, or the most common the move.
Yeah, then you also see the win percentage. So you could see, so you could just go forward a few moves, and see it's common. He has white, so your bishop e2 is a little less aggressive, and you sacrifice here. And if you see your sacrifice, go back one move. So your move, bishop at f2, is the third most common move, although much less frequently. You see, there's almost been 20,000 games played. Uh, Knight f6 has been played over 10,000 times. d6 a few thousand times. Bishop takes f2 is the third most common move, but it's only been played like a few hundred times. And white has a pretty strong win percentage in all of these lines. The computer analysis is about equal position, but according to the computer, bishop takes f2. So you go forward one move now, and see now white has a +4. It says the bishop f2 really isn't that sound.
Okay.
Um, but you can go forward a few, just a few moves, and you see. But that's how you could play this anyways. Like Marlin plays this, even though it's not that sound, you could win a lot because you get good attacks, like playing the King's Gambit, and you could win in on sound lines. But just at each point, you could consider. So here you play d5,
Yeah.
and you just look at the move that you played. The computer, centi pawn, right, that the +3 means like an average that you're up, like a pawn worth 1 point, a knight worth 3 points.
Hmm.
That the computer estimation of how much one side is better, and then an opening book just to see among the players of various strength that white typically wins this position 2/3 of the time. So you say on average play that if you're in this position, among average players, you that white is going to win this position 2/3 of the time. So you're black in this position, and you could see from opening book that you only have a 1/3 expected win ratio in a position like this, and you could purposely go into stuff like this, like Marlin, and because you really know it. Uh, but this is a basic opening prep, and um, so if you want to go forward a few moves, and I don't, to some extent, like just talking out loud how you're thinking at the time is the best way to improve you. So he made an error there playing d3. So at this point, like he does not want to trade queens because his king is less safe than yours, and so he could have just taken the pawn. But playing d3 is already a mistake, and then the position the computer is estimating to be about equal again. So you go forward one move, and then now you're already better here.
Yeah.
So you see how quickly, like just a like a third or fourth best move, and you're already back in the driver's seat with a better position here. And um,
Hi. Okay.
oh yeah, Oki showed up.
Yeah. I think I'm trying to narrate a story. I'm looking at it with a different lens almost when I'm analyzing versus playing. And I'm trying to guess what I was thinking. Maybe we should play a live game.
I'll put the link if Oki wants to pop in and join.
Yeah.
Um, if he wants, I put the link in the chat. Well, I'm trying to mention to you that like I say like less play, more practice. You get better by studying
Yeah,
more than by playing.
I've heard.
And so saying you're likely to see you play this opening, and it's not straight memorizing opening lines. I mean, just a certain point, it's like the hard problem of consciousness and what is memory, uh, but it's more a question of understanding why certain moves are better than others, and then you're probably going to see this similar position like in one third half of your games, and to make small improvements. Like I said, you could probably get to 1850, maybe even I said you could get to 2000 within 6 months, maybe even I put the use zaraza too. I guess we don't have a translator, um,
Hey, Zaraza! Good to see you.
but there's basic small incremental improvement in your mind that will benefit you in all positions. So understanding why one move is better than another move in a generic type position, that even you're not going to necessarily, you could memorize like for opening, like if you're playing a certain player again and again, you could prep the opening for a specific player,
Right.
um, as opposed to saying like I know I play this person multiple times and we always get the same position, and then you look in the computer for some sort of um, uh, opening improvement, and then you play that and you get a better position, versus generic just understanding the opening better, that you could improve your opening position in one third of your games, and that might improve your win ratio, and pump you up like 100 points really.
Okay.
So it was really like, I mean, this basic generic studying method. So someone's trying to get in the beginning, like getting to like 1500 strength. This, but after you hit like 1500 strength to even master strength, it's more incremental. You have to go over your games. You have to improve in the opening. And like last time, like the mating pattern, the maiden one that you missed,
Mm,
Okey has a whole bunch of stuff on his channel like that.
yeah.
And just recognizing those patterns, versus like opening in middle game patterns of why certain ideas are better than others. And then, if you understand the computer analysis, what does it mean to be +4, +5 in a position? And if you get an opening position where you're plus, you're -5 here. So you look in the position here, um, you're -5 here, which means you should probably win about 90% of the positions here. But to know what's the best idea, how do you go about finishing your opponent off, um, and then certain bad ideas, and that's how you improve. Like computer analysis. If you have a stronger player to go over, and you don't need computer analysis or thinking on your own, but computer analysis could basically do the trick where it just shows you um, what you did versus like a computer objective best continuation, and then trying to figure out what it is about the way we think about the position that caused us to play a lesser move than what could have been played.
Okay. That makes sense.
I mean, we could play a game, I guess. If you want to challenge me, we could just play a game if that's
I do.
how you prefer.
I definitely prefer to play. What time do you want? Or
Doesn't matter. I mean, I guess if you just want to do it casual, and we could
okay.
talk through it,
All right.
and you could make it slower.
All right. 5 + 5.
That's fine.
Okay. Good
You
luck.
know,
Oh wait, that's 3 check. Don't do that one. We don't want to play 3 check.
I've only played a handful of three check games. I lost quite easily because okay, so they give me white, and
All
I'm
right.
an E4 player like Joanna, and she's even more aggressive than I am.
To my doom most of the time. All right. Should I talk through it? So this is hanging. Usually I bring my knight out first. But I'm just gonna defend.
Yeah, I sometimes play knight C3 first before knight F3. But yeah, this is the single most common, um, you know, beginning moves.
All right. I want to do that, but I think I'm gonna try my knight out.
Yeah, I mean,
And
if you
with you being so high rated, I tend to play a little bit more. timidly, not quite as aggressive as normal. And I'm a little scared of this, but I don't think you're a sacker. Okay, I'm gonna sack.
Yeah, so we've had this position, and it was not a bad idea. It's like, in fact, you see Joanne's beat me a few times. Well, I think I might have berserked her, and there may have been
You did.
time wins.
It
But
was.
even though it's an on sound sack, um, and you just see here, you don't have really enough follow up.
Right.
Like, you could play the knight check at g4, and I'm just going to go back maybe to f1, so you can't play a check, and it's hard for you to gain more material.
Right.
So like, you don't really have a good follow up to this.
No, because I'm refraining to put this e6 drop now that you're talking me out of. So now I'm looking at other ideas. I'm concerned about the sack and your knights right up behind me.
The e6 is interesting because if you do at e6 and I take with the bishop, then the knight g4 picks up the bishop. But even at that, like, even if I take with the bishop, and I could take with the king and knight check and then just king back, or even if I take with the bishop and then you trade and my king's on e3, just working on your visualization skills. If you're visualizing the board that you play knight g4, I mean, you play at e3, I play bishop takes pawn, then you play knight g4, I play king e2, and you play knight takes bishop, and I play king takes bishop, and you have a bishop to drop, which you could put at d4 or something. It's really still not that much. That so now you're making like a defensive move, and already I could just play king f1, king g1, and like I self castled, and I'm just up material, and you have so now just self castled, and you have very little to show for the piece that you sacked. Now, I could probably be aggressive and try to maybe sack back, or just I'll just play bishop e3, safe extra defense. So so she's playing the aggressive, and it's a pretty good idea. That's the best, kind of like sack sitting though, because it's not bug house, and you don't have a partner that could feed you. I'm not even sure I don't have my mouse plugged in, so like my drop pad's almost impossible to click and drag. But I mean, if you continue with the sack here, which you could have played bishop takes g2, king takes, and then at g4.
Do you think that would have been better than retreating it? Just on f3?
Neither one's really that sound. I mean, okay. I think
I've already doomed myself.
Well, I mean, you're just down material without enough compensation.
Okay, yeah, because your king's no longer unsafe. I see that.
I might. So I mean, I got to be careful. Like if I played like knight d5 or something, the weakness of the last move, then you have at e2, and you might be right back in the game. So I mean, there's there's a lot of mistakes that white could make that you could get right back in the game. Try like just bishop here, attack f7, make you either so now you've wasted your pawn. You don't have any material to work with.
Look how safe my king is, though.
We'll see how safe it is.
But fair enough.
I want to just do at h3.
Okay.
If you trade, I'm gonna probably sack the exchange. But I mean, yeah, your king is relatively safe, and but at the same time, you can't really bring any of your own. Now you have a knight and a rook, so you really have no other choice than that. And like basic chess instruction, I have d5 attacked 5 times, and you only have it defended 3 times.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you need some material. You need to get something going.
Right.
So you have to do something. But like just basic counting, I've attacked 5 times. You only have defended 3 times. It's not going to work out good for you. And so even just to get the pawn, that and you don't even really have a quick direct threat. Like, even if you did like knight at, probably just take it because your attacks are too slow. I mean, I could just move the queen back, which would be fine. I'll just move the queen back, but I probably could have just taken and then taken e6 also. And
All right. I was hoping you'd give me the knight. I'm playing hope chess now.
yeah, I mean, I want to threaten f7. So if it was my move, probably taking and sacking the queen, I probably already have mate. Like, if so you really don't have enough time. If you tried queen takes bishop, you don't even really have a good follow up. And I mean, so even here, just take it. You basically have to take with the knight, and now I could probably just drop a pawn in here, and it's going to be tough for you to defend. I mean, if you could try bishop at g8. It's a pretty ugly move to be forced to play here. Yes, take the rook, but
Bishop here.
this should be sufficient. Like,
Wasn't
like
expecting that.
I could have played a more safe move. I'm up a lot of material, but this should be sufficient for mate, and even just like a pawn, because
you do, yeah. You're forcing me up. That's ugly.
and you don't even really have a direct threat.
Okay,
like even if my attack fizzles,
go in. Oh man.
Just the bishop at e3 is sufficient probably to defend that if my attack fizzles.
This is rough. Anyone who wants to chat? Hi, Claire. Was Jen in here too? I thought I saw her symbol.
She popped in for a second. I don't think either one of them plays chess.
Okay.
So I have two knights. I'll use them.
Okay. I'm gonna hide. Attempt to hide.
Just play some material. If I had something forcing, I missed it. But you're just too
vulnerable.
And probably because you don't. I don't think you have anything that. Yeah, probably just play pawn here. And my attack is over. Now I have nothing left, although I did sack my queen, but my position's pretty good here. So I think even though I don't have anything immediate that I should be.
I'm still not feeling too confident, so.
Well, I have to come up with something, so let me try to be a little tricky, because I don't think you have anything.
Oh, you're going to drop a knight here, yeah?
I'm threatening knight at c6, to pick up the queen. Knight at h6 is also a threat. So, yeah, I could probably take it and be safe also, but then you might be able to drag me out. But I thought king at h1 should be safe. You don't have a knight to check on g3, even if you did. Queen at g1. I have my knight and bishop on it, my rook and bishop on it. So you probably gotta play a defensive move here. I don't think you have another. So just looking at my attack, you're just saying like tempo is extremely important in Crazy House,
right.
And so that's a pretty strong move for Joanna. But
diagonal.
So you're threatening g2 and defensive at the same time. However, however not. So this is already like a Doooovid to play and win,
Oh no. Okay.
and um, so I think I could play. I think this is the power move here, knight at a6,
Oh
because
yeah.
you have to take, and then I take your bishop, and I get the queen with check. So that was the tactic there.
Yeah, that's nice.
And I guess we're on your screen share, but yeah. So now I just take the bishop with check, and then
Yeah,
you have no choice but to
with
move
the
the
check.
queen up, and I get the queen with check. And so if you took with the knight, actually, it would have defended
I did that. Yeah.
c6, and so this should be mate in two. If you take with the knight, it still probably would have been mate. I would have been able to play at c8, but now this.
Mm. Good game. Okay, that was fun.
So do you want to look at the analysis board? Just to click
Yeah.
on analysis board. Um, click the just. I think if you hit the up arrow, you could do it in any way. But if you just click your up arrow on your keyboard, you don't have to do that shortcut.
For the book, do you want the book open?
Yeah, leave it open. I was saying to get to move one, you just click
Ah.
the up arrow and it takes you to move one.
Oh, nice. I did have that.
And so we could look at kind of like your on sound sack at the beginning. The link I put in was the StreamYards link. If I thought okay, if you wanted to talk about just generic chess coaching improvement of going over games
Yeah.
using opening book and computer analysis. Okey does that also.
Mm-hmm. Jen would be so mad if she lost a game to you. Do you
I
play
mean,
chess, Claire?
I don't think she doesn't play chess. It would be I don't know if Claire. I mean, she's competitive in nature, but I don't know if she would care about. Um,
Okay. This.
so it's not the worst move. I'm saying like but after sacking the bishop, white is already +4, and just look at your follow up. So after this, and
Yeah, I have no follow up. I'm just trying to develop, and I'm giving you a chance to tuck away.
you had mentioned at e3, which just doesn't do enough. So then,
Mm-hmm.
maybe probably just castling is
I never castle.
or knight g4, but at h6 is it's questionable. Now you allow me to self castle, and you could see the analysis there that you've allowed me to get quite an advantage. It dips a little bit
What made you dip? I'm wondering.
here. So here when I played h3,
Mm-hmm.
go back 2 moves, go back another move. So here I'm +20
Yeah.
according to the computer, and there's multiple moves it's recommending me playing at h3. H3 is not from the recommended, so I don't have any material. I could have I probably could have sacked the queen. I guess knight f takes d5. So here lets you get back in the game a little bit, and I guess taking with the rook. And we go back another move. It said what's the computer recommend you should have done?
How do I get the book out?
If you just click on that, it makes it disappear or reappear. And if just to show, so click on the book so it disappears.
Mm-hmm.
And now click on the 3 lines to the right, and on multiple lines, move it down to 3. So where it says 5 of 5, so you can do it like 3. And now click on the 3 lines again. And now it only shows 3 moves here. So
Okay.
what because it's a little bit small, the top computer recommended move, what is it saying that you should do?
I can't. Where does it say that?
The right under 3.9.
The knight.
Yeah, so it's a
The
pretty
knight on
common
h4.
pretty common attacking idea. Knight at h4. So that was your best chance. according to the computer, your best chance was knight at h4.
Okay.
I guess, what'd you do? You played knight at g5?
I took your rook.
Or you took the rook,
Yeah.
and
And then, yep, you were just totally dominating here. Although I feel very safe. I'm down material.
we have a tempo or two of safety, but yeah, the material, and eventually, if you put it in like a terms of tempos, that you're safe, that it's going to take me like a good few moves to crack open your king, but just the huge material advantage that it's likely I'm going to be able to safely get those few moves to crack open your king, and you're not going to be able to, even though my king is more open than yours, that the material advantage will mean that I'll be able to penetrate your defenses, and even though my king is somewhat open, that you're not going to be able to do anything about it.
That makes sense. Yeah, and those double bishops. Oof, I think I should have been defensive here. Instead, yeah. I saw that, the simple math. I was losing that square, but I still soldiered on instead of defended it. It was.
We need materials. I mean, you're just looking. That's the only real way for you to open up the game and get some sort of material, even though we'll see how good the computer says my queen sack was.
All right. Let's see. Yeah, it seems to like your queen sack. Those double knights.
Yeah, I guess bishop at g6 was even better. I could have just pinned it, and that would have been all she wrote if I did bishop at g.
I was expecting the G, the pawn.
I didn't even see that one during the game. If I'd saw that, I probably would have played it.
Oofda. Okay.
That's saying there's always improvements on play, and even in games that you win, going over your wins could help you find improvements.
Definitely. So it wants me to drop a bishop here. What did I do?
Oh, that's what I wanted me to do instead of the check. Like Patzer sees the check, Patzer plays the check. So I went straight for the check, but just attacking on f4 was better. Like a slow non-check move.
Yeah. Okay. And it wants you to stock up on that diagonal. You drop the rook. And now I'm just running for my life. Yeah. And a desperate check with no follow-through plan. And then I completely failed to see this double knight, the superfluous knights over here on the right. Although I saw it on the left. And yeah, it's pretty grim from here out. Good game.
So I mean, basically, if you do this, you get better. I tell people constantly in all the variants, like if you go over your games, you will improve. And I mean, there's other methods to improvement. The single most important aspect to improving at chess is analyzing one's own games, and just simply not making the same mistakes twice. Will be pretty powerful. Let me try to. Let me.
Do you want me to stop sharing? You want to share?
You end your screen share, and I'll go back to doing a screen share, and I'll try to show you one more thing, and that will be, how do you beat players that typically beat you? Like I showed you my prep for Blitzer, so I was looking at this game against, that was Zaraza, that was playing Metin. So I'm just looking at your. Who's a player that you seem to run up against all the time?
Zaraza. We were gonna play against each other in league, and I dropped out.
Okay, so yeah, let me do that. I'll do
Blunderbuss. What's his name?
Blunderman. or I
Blunderman. Yeah.
blunder a lot. So let me just, I'll do Zaraza since, we've been working with her also, and she's part of the league and a fellow streamer. So, when you do advanced search, so I just went to Joanna's lichess page, and I'm just going to type in um, Zaraza under opponent name, and then it
Yeah.
gives me her games against Zaraza, and you could see that Zaraza is 22 and a half to your 11 and a half, although you've won the last three games. So just speeding through, you can see like uh, Zaraza does not play e5 against you
Yeah.
here, and gets this d5 line.
She's more
And
of a tight player than I am. I think I'm more recklessly aggressive.
yeah, that's why I actually have a better record against her than you, because your recklessly aggressive style uh, is better for Crazy House. So, I mean, here um, she's too defensive. Like if she's looking at it, you have multiple threats. So here, like at f5 is an interesting move, because thinking like you can't really take it because they're threatening to take the rook with check. So like at f6 is really a weak move, and so playing it's logical. Like she wants to have like a tight defense, and even since sometimes women like to have more aesthetically appeasing structures, also that like at f6 might be more aesthetically pleasing than at
That might be true.
f5. Have you noticed that in your coaching?
I think that might be true. I think
I see a lot of girls like very young that
yeah.
you will look at the pieces like dowels, or if you would give them the pieces, they'll
Mhm.
start setting the pieces up there like they're kind of like in some sort of like dowel or
Yeah.
uh, plaything
And I think
structure.
yeah,
And so just at f6 is very aesthetically appealing, although you could see the analysis is not that good. And something at f5, you say I want to do another threat because pawn takes rook is a very strong threat. That at f5 creates another threat, or knight at f6. And so here you get, I mean, computer says you just taking the pawn. And so at this point already, um,
still there, Zaraza.
she defends, but so now you already have a significant advantage,
Yeah.
and then she walks right into the fork. So even here, Queen E7 check. That I don't. I mean, she had a long time. I don't know how she didn't see that coming. The knight fork, and she just played Queen E7 and check.
Yeah,
She only thought 1 second on that move.
I think she
Um,
might have been distracted here because she usually doesn't miss things like this.
yes, I just thought she only thought 1 second on that move. But so here, and then you even play the at f7 to
Keep the
um,
momentum.
but it's, so looking at a series that you played her a bunch of games and you play regularly, prepare for people. So here, because she plays d4, you're kind of bringing your knight out, and I don't, do you purposely sack your queen like that? That's your idea to play. What if she played bishop takes d8?
No, that was a complete blunder that I think we both missed.
Yeah, and then she didn't even take it, and then in the second move she didn't even take
I
it.
don't know if we're like exceptionally competitive, but I think we tend to play fast and a little
Yeah,
reckless against each other.
and like you could have taken her bishop here even to
Yeah.
so like these were pretty bad games. So let's look at this like here she beats you 5 games in a row. Let's see if you get
Okay.
similar openings. So here
Team
you get
battle.
this e6 d5 that she plays, and here she's already better. So in this position where you play bishop c4, and she blocks you with the e6, and then you go knight c3 and she plays d5, she's already better. She's already gained the advantage for black,
Yeah, that
because
happens a lot
like
with me.
you just blocked your idea,
Hmm.
and now you check and she just blocks it again. Your bishop has to go back, and
I like creating that C hole though.
but I mean she's probably going to castle kingside anyways, and
Yeah.
I mean she could have even played at c6 if she wanted and been better. But yeah, I don't know. Bishop b5 is a maybe she was better off keeping her bishop closer home, but she trades it right off, and to attack right away. So you go for the at h6, great attack. and you already have the advantage. Like you don't take it. Like she lets you take it, and you don't take. I don't know what you
Bishop
were
taken.
scared of. You don't even
I was
defend.
scared of the sack. Yeah.
You're not even defending like c3. Like bishop. You're defending f2, and now and she's
Maybe for us,
still.
it's a bad opponent to look at. I think we don't play our best against each other.
Yeah, I'm gonna say objectively, like you say that you try to play the best moves. There's a certain amount playing the opponent, but you're saying that you want to. So she lets you get an attack, and you're kind of like on sound. So like you don't have enough material. So I mean, the bishop there, that it's even saying you should play queen d1. Uh, that the bishop you don't have a follow up, so you try to win the queen, and so it's interesting if you notice. This is the type thing a lot of people miss is that you only have a queen to defend with. So if she plays rook at b1, you're forced to give up your queen
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have anything else to block. I mean, you could play bishop c1 that she could just take, but you have to either give up. Play queen d1 or at queen d1. So she probably missed that you don't have anything to block the rook.
Right.
So you take, and then you're actually back in the driver's seat after she takes. You get the bishop check, and actually, ironically, if you play queen at h8 here first is much better, and the reason it's much better is that if you play let's just change if you play queen at h8 and then she blocks, here it's saying with the knight, but the bishop, and then you play bishop takes. Now she can't block on g7 because you could just take it. So
Right.
by playing the queen down first, you add that extra, attacker to g7. So here that she just blocks,
And then
and
just losing it. Yeah.
here queen g8 is the better move also. That because then you just create a double attack, and so if you had played queen h8 here, you're back in the driver's seat because if she blocks, you're going to be able to take the pawn, and then the king will be forced. Although um, so here you just don't have enough. I mean, it's close. You're only a pawn away from mate. If you had one more pawn, it would be mate, but you don't. And then here you don't have any blockers, and so you have to give up your queen.
Yeah.
So it's both pretty sloppy. I'm not sure if all your games are so sloppy. Here you see again, like her defense of just blocking you e6 d5,
And that
and then
same.
the
I gotta get that out of my repertoire.
well, I mean it's an even game. So, but I'm saying for white, where you just it's
Bouncing
already
my bishop around now. I'm losing initiative. I think.
and I mean that's just bad. I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, at eight, she could just play h6. I mean, she knows that you're attacker and aggressive. Like she's better off just playing like I don't know, at a6. I don't know what she was thinking there. If that's kind of like one of these like aesthetically, like you said, female players tend to uh, sometimes play moves that aesthetically look good, even though they may not be that good. But it's hard to at h6 is um, mind-boggling, and you see you get it. So you get a big advantage here, but she's this game she wins,
Yeah.
and
Look at that little fort she's building, and I just walked her into it.
she gets her aesthetically
Oh, she did
pleasing
so.
defense. Although she let you in there like a little bit. You got your
Yeah, I was surprised she didn't castle. She does let me in quite a bit.
bishop g5. So here it's just if you think about it, you play bishop at f6, and just bishop g5 is so much better. I mean, do you see why
Yeah.
bishop g5 is such a better move than
Oh
bishop at
yeah.
f6? Because you get a free tempo on the rook, and in like whatever reason you play bishop f6, if you're just going to sack on e7, that at g5 is better.
Right.
And
I
then here's here. So here,
can learn how to beat okay next. How to beat okay stream coming up next.
okay, these games are too. let me try Oki. Like, but we look at a few games. Like you see that she's doing the same thing in the opening two. So here you have she has white, and she's getting you in D4. Um, but you could see how that you could look at your game and find an improvement in the opening, and be likely to get a better game. So let's look at
Yeah,
a few. Maybe Oki will those games. If you say you and Zaraza, you like jinx each other somehow,
some maybe.
so it may not be. So do an advanced search and try Oki.
You asked for
And
this, okay?
is he still watching? Oh, here he is. Okay, and now if he did change his mind, he could in the chat again. Um, so Oki is 42 to 10 against you. Although you have one. So Oki's a D4 player, and you go straight in for just the knight. Like it was straight bug house, and you just sack it on F2,
I'm
even
trying
though
not
you
to
don't have.
do that anymore.
I mean, you see, like it's plus 10 already here for him.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
here, like, you see you don't have anything, and you just play a defensive move.
I think he's
And
the
then
one of the first players that told me to stop doing that.
and he just did what I did. I mean, he just hand castles, and then
Yeah.
he's just up a ton of material.
Hmm.
And although, see Oki um, lets you back in the game. Like I mean, it's somewhat here where he thought it, knight at knight f5 looks somewhat logical, but I guess you could trade queens.
Or drop a bishop on d4.
You drop a bishop on the diagonal check and create some checks, and then you have smothered mates. I mean, if you look at bishop at c5, and just for example, if you played king over, then like queen takes queen and bishop takes knight, you already have smothered mate threats. So just like he's up over 10 here, and it's saying he should just bring his knight in for the attack and not defend his knight. But so you see how quickly you could get back in the game. Take takes back, um, and so it's funny here that you block the queen trade, and I guess you're actually better off maintaining the queen trade here.
Huh.
And then at this point, yeah, he's got the right in, and then he's already got mate.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
so interesting here. This is knight e4 is mate in one. But, what you wrote anyways. Let's see how you beat him. I mean, you see how you had improvement. That like Oki's beatable in that game. That even that game that you had kind of played poorly in the opening, that you still had chances to get back in. You missed certain ideas that might be applicable in games that you're going to see in the future. So here already, um, you're doing decent here, and then
I love playing
it's
the
saying
game kiddos.
that e5 isn't the greatest strategy, although it's saying because you should have just given up the knight, and then you're not a castler, so like the computer's recommending castling. It lets you take. So you got a little bit of attack going here, and then it's okay, like rook e8. I guess he just needs he needs the rook to defend f7. So at this point you have a huge advantage, and
Why
then
did I do
taking.
that? Oh.
Well, I mean, this game you win, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's in here you just you gain the rook and the bishop, and then you just mate, like he just crumbled right in the opening. So that one but so if you're looking like, okay, so this is the same position you're getting against Oki again, and so you could look for small improvements in your play and saying, if you get this position. So here where you played d4, d5, computer saying is not really that great of a strategy, and then you see what happens is
Gets the battery.
really saying you should castle in these positions. If you're not a castler, it's not your style. But then here you're just, it's too much. I mean,
Yeah.
really, it's saying you should just play queen takes. Uh, but your attack, is just not sufficient. And then he's got mate.
Yeah.
He misses mate, and so even here, like, bishop takes g2 is much more likely to be a mating strategy. He's got the knight, queen at c1, and for some reason he goes for at e1, which is weaker, and then maybe he thought that he had a mate that he didn't, and then he just blunders. He gives the rook for nothing. Like, he could have just taken the rook for
He
nothing.
did it so confidently. I didn't even expect. That's the problem too. When we play higher rated players, I think you can.
Here you're up. You have two queens and a rook here.
Yeah. Oh man.
And you missed the obvious.
Yeah.
So the obvious is just pick up the rook with check even. So he's saying it's all with check. He's queen at c8.
Yep.
And I mean, he could play knight. Knight at f8 is his only move. If he doesn't play knight at f8, you're going to take the rook with check, and you take the knight, and you just double battery on the file. Says mating, but so you might as well have played at c8 so that you had the threat to take the rook off. And so here, I guess you just I mean, it's the obvious move, although you're just creating a battery on the file with queen at c8 is crushing, because you're threatening queen takes rook and then sacking the queen on e8. Here, it's just not. He has to go for a counterattack here, actually. So you have a mate in 4 here.
Oh, wow.
And it's simple, really. His bishop takes, you have to do rook takes, and you could do queen at f6, king takes f6, and
I love it.
We should have had easy mate here, saying bishop at g5, and if he takes queen at f4 is mate, so he's got to go back. This would be like match play. If you were going to do a match against Okei, you say like a common opening. So here he has white, and you give him the full center, and you get your knight sack, and you just don't have any material, so you have to play like defensive.
Yeah.
And then
He's already got me out.
Kind of just crushed. I mean, he could have just sacked the queen. In here, I guess. Already saying it's. I mean, I don't know what you could have went back and.
It's making me want to play.
But I mean, that's the point. Is more study, less play. Like, you get better from study, not play. So it's like, and so if you play to win, you're saying it's the interesting point that you're saying that improvement comes from study, not from play. See what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's the point. You want to get better, and even like advice, like I could look at your games and maybe give a few pointers. Maybe I could have analyzed these games beforehand and taught you like a few tricks, like, oh, do this, and you'll win.
Did I not sack the queen there?
No, you sacked the queen. Okay. So this was I mentioning like the, so you messed it up here. So the interesting thing here, so we mentioned in the other games
that easy.
Like this mating structure. So
so simple. Oh no, I moved the knight. Oh
no, so you didn't. You placed the knight, which was worse, because then he moves up and he's safe. So if you move the knight back, he can't move back because he's going to be mate. If he moves back here, then you have the knight and then the pawn mate. And if he goes, to the corner, then you drop, bishop or pawn, and then the knight mate, like we mentioned in the other game you missed mate in 1. But the problem.
How does he avoid it moving up?
The problem with your move knight at f4 is that you waste your crucial material. And then when he plays king g3, you basically got nothing. So here you play.
I can't even jump. Because the knight. Okay.
He should have just played. I mean, you're actually better here, but I mean, he should have just played knight takes h4, and then you don't even have a check.
And he's got all the run.
And here, like, it's saying you should, you dropped bishop at e7, and then, but here, he just does knight takes, and you don't have enough material here. So at this point, he just blacks you off, and you just don't have any material, and he comes back, and then eventually, we'll be able to win easily. So just back at this position, like the simple pattern of why is knight here better than knight there? And the reason is going to be simple, because when you play knight here, he has to move forward. And in the position that you had, where you played knight here, and now you're in this position,
Then
and your
h5.
pieces are kind of bound. You don't have another check, besides this h4 square that's defended, as opposed to if you had played knight here and then he plays king up. Now you could play knight at h5, and it's actually mate, because his only move, he could play king at g4 or king at h4, and both of them are going to be mating. And king at g4, the easier of the two. Bishop, so let's just say if he played king here, and you could just play a slow move here, h6, and his king is basically zugzwanged,
Yeah.
and you're going to be able to finish him off. But you see here that's interesting. In this case, you waste the one piece you have. So playing knight at f4 is worse, because when he plays king up, now you don't have a knight for the crucial check. And so if you played this knight here, he still can't go back. He still has the same mate. And then when he moves the king forward, you have the knight at h5. I think Okei definitely has this stuff on his page. Like, these are basic
Yeah.
instructional stuff that like small pattern type recognition type things, that
Sure.
slight improvements that you're almost certainly going to see that again. Like, you'll almost certainly have an opportunity to sack the queen again, and to place a knight or to use your knight. And it's going to be the question: should you place the knight, or should you use your own knight? And here, I guess, kind of like the blitz or this common thing. And it's funny that you get a good game out of the opening here, although bishop at
Opening
e6
the
is just
f1 is
a horrible blunder, because you're just opening up your f file for no reason, and he messes it up, I guess. Like, but here, like, you should just take a knight takes g5. Uh, he's really crushing you here, but somehow I guess, how do you win this? So here, like, you just play king at h2. You get nothing, no attack. You can't do anything. He just takes your rook. You have basically no material to attack left with. But I guess he figures, so he plays a move. Even here, you really have nothing. He loses his queen, so it's funny. Like, he could have just played king h3 or king g3, but he plays king f, and so he walks into the fork, which isn't a big deal. Saying if he played king g3, he's just fine. But then he plays here, and then now you have at g4, and
what did I? He didn't take the knight.
it's just really sloppy. I
Yeah.
guess he lost on time, so maybe you're trying to flag him.
Probably. I'm a filthy flagger.
That you won this game on time. But yeah, that was a like, now he's doing the same zaraza to you here, where he just blocks the e6 d5, and then Okei gets a better game out of the opening, and then he gets the at h3 before you get the at h6, and you don't have a knight there, so your attack is too slow, and now you're down material, and able to, even though you get the queen and you have a mate in one threat, which is not enough, and finishes you off. But he does the same. You have to think about that. Like, here you have the exact, so here he allows your sack. He doesn't snuff you with the e6 d5 like zaraza. But that's the type of thing you should prep. You should have some prep against that. And if you go over enough of your games, you'll develop prep, not by like studying openings or like high level CWC type computer analysis to the opening, but just going over your games and making slight improvements in your play. So you get a better game with the sack here. and at e5 isn't the greatest, and but he doesn't do the knight forward,
It's better to
and
drop the pawn before e5
well,
to drop the pawn six.
because you could just play knight here, because your knight is pinned. That e5 isn't that good.
Okay.
And e5, but I mean he lets you take the knight, so it works out good. But I mean that just at the computer analysis, just looking at it, saying it's not the greatest, but he allows you to crack open the king.
Yeah.
And then here, I guess, like, you don't have anything. So you could have tried the knight at h4, but, he probably just allow him to play a pawn. It's interesting, the interesting move, rook at, um, there's
Oh,
two,
for the fork.
rook, yeah,
Oh,
the rook at either e8 or h8, and then the knight fork winning the queen.
oh,
So that's pretty cute.
yeah.
Rook, um, but here, so you gather a little bit of material, but at this point it's too slow. He's got all these pawns, and his king is going to be safe, and you got nothing. But you see, you had your chances. So it's like, okay, you're looking at these games, you had your chances, and even here, you'd kind of messed up uh, the opening a little bit. You still had your chances, and then at this point, um, you still have this rook at h8 move. Here, it's even more deadly than before. Rook at h8.
Or yeah, the queen.
So you had your chances, and he might fall for that again. And so even if Oki's watching this video, he still
Hopefully,
might fall for that again.
don't listen. Okay.
I mean, that's the tactic. I fall for that. I'm saying even top players like blitz bullet, like those tactics are hard to miss. And now you just don't have any material. Or if you resigned. Um,
Very nice.
so here you got this again with Oki, and the last time you allowed him to play, you played your bishop at e6 and allowed him, but to double the pawn and just have an easy open f7 square. But here, just common French type thing. And why does he sack his queen here? He could have just taken g7 and you're crushed. I mean, like queen
Yeah,
x g7, and
that's
it's like,
weird.
and you're destroyed because you got to play like rook at. I mean, you basically have to play rook at rook f8.
Hmm.
But he misses it and gives up the queen, and you're back in the game. And I guess so knight there. What I mean, here it's funny that I guess it's saying that you should attack here and go all in, bishop f2, and it's king at f2, queen
Oh,
at e1, and if he blocks, then you have at h2. So the idea here is if he moves the rook back, you play at f2, and then you could take the rook and probably mate. So like rook at f1, in fact, is mate in 4 because you just have bishop f2, and you're gonna have easy mate. And if he plays your knight or bishop at f1, then you have at h2, and then you're going to pick off the rook, and should be easy mate from there. So you actually had an attack there, like so now bishop at f2 was winning and you didn't play it, and so here, yeah, I mean it's kind of dangerous here to let him get his knight, and so it's that you got mate here, an easy mate.
oh,
Knight at e2 is just an easy mate. If he plays king here,
oh,
you
gee,
just drop the bishop, and if he
yeah.
plays king h1, you have knight g3, take king over. Um,
Let me just
so
get
it's
over.
Oki is beatable. I'm saying like you had so that, and that's the power of going over your games and saying that see like Oki's top 500 player. He's called the Godfather of Crazy House. He's one of the most streamers. He's one of the organizers of CWC.
Hmm.
But like he's beatable. You had a mate that you missed against him. But it's the power of going over the game. So like you don't want to miss a mate like that again. And so if so that's how a little over aggressive here.
Hmm.
It's there. Queen takes.
Oofda. The bishop.
It's interesting. Knight at d6. This is one of like Hopper, Reese, and Katas type moves that they would see. Maybe I probably won't see this, but knight at d6 because you can't take the knight because then knight at c2 will be
Right.
forking the queen, and
That's nice.
one of these like tough moves to see. You try knight at f6, which doesn't do anything,
Mm.
and then
Fun stuff. Fun stuff.
okay, and we've had this almost 2 hours, but saying
Yeah.
like that's the method. Saying like if you avow yourself to the method, uh, it's basically guaranteed to see improvement. Like any form of mental workout, physical workout. If you avow yourself to the method, you will see improvement. There's not not really any doubt in that. And then, like there's more things that you could do to possibly, saying if you had a coach, your coach might look at your games and make a determinative, expertise judgment about what parts of your game are your strengths and weaknesses, and what part of the game that you could work on that would allow you the most improvement. I have, Sunil Wardamantri.
Mm-mm.
He's most famous as Nakamura's stepfather. Uh,
Oh.
the famous chess promoter, but he comes to Detroit. I work with him in coaching, and he's got
Oh.
his book on coaching is Demystifying Chess, and saying like chess look at kind of like mystical, like what's going on, but to break it down into chunks and discrete units to put together like what makes a master play, and there's these discrete units that if you work at your game, will eventually have a complete game, and to be a master, you have
Chunking
to
chess.
master. Well, chunking theory is the
Is it
memory psychological theory that,
okay? But is it
that
like the same similar principle, taking pieces of it to
yeah.
be able to? Okay.
Yes, I mean just breaking
Break it down.
into discrete units. So if you're an expert coach, might be able to look at your play and see like if you work at this, you'll see the most improvement in things. So like I'm not necessarily an expert coach like that. I'm not giving you specific advice like do this, do that. So this is just the generic advice that anybody at any level of play that does these things is basically guaranteed to see improvement. You're just going over your games, understanding why what it was that we did wasn't as good as what could have been done, and try to work some sort of mental progress in order. I mean, it's really the character refinement process that I have a religious training, and but character refinement in general of any form is like Socrates, know thyself. I think Cleveland, the psychological study of chess like 100 years ago, know thyself by playing chess. That why did I play the move that I played? There's something about me that made me think that this was the best move, even though it wasn't the best move, and this other continuation was clearly better. And then you might have a few other times where you keep on doing the not such great move, even though you've already seen it. So okay, we've looked at these games, and maybe you're going to be in the exact same position, and you're still going to make the same mistake. But there'll be some sort of, like I told you, the heuristic 420, 100. Like after the fourth time, you're going to see that like no, I've done this a few times and there's something better. I'm not going to like mechanical nature that most people most of the time operate in some sort of mechanical nature where
Yes.
we just do what we've done in the past because
That
that's
deadly
what's
autopilot.
yeah. But at some point through the review process, you are able to take yourself out of autopilot and put yourself and say like no, I'm going to play a better move. And then like my field consciousness studies, Jennifer will talk about it, even though she doesn't play week in review, is what's this mental conscious process where there's some sort of now I'm a better person, better thinker. What happened where there was this generalized pattern that I saw, and then in my regular play, all of a sudden I see this generalized pattern all the time. and that's related to any form of thought and decision making. That so just someone asking the chess. Thanks for joining. So many books.
Okay.
I wonder what they're about. I actually sell books for a living, so I have an eBay page and I sell books. So the books on the table behind me are mostly nonfiction books that I'm going to put up for sale. I don't really read. I mean, mostly fiction books that I put up for sale. I don't really read fiction. The books on my shelf, the four books shelves over there, are all Judaica, and straight behind me I have uh, like Islam, Christianity, uh, interfaith studies. Then I have esoterica, and I have books on science, consciousness, mathematics. So a big book collection. But I also sell books for a living. So all the books all over the place are stuff I've listed on my eBay. That I don't sell chess books. Like I keep, my father has an extremely large chess book collection,
Oh, nice.
um, but he doesn't even play or read them. But we will probably keep those for uh, sake. But so I guess that's. I mean, it makes sense to you what I said. The improvement process. And I assume like you or Pepe as coaches uh, probably do the same thing. Like you have students and you go over their games and you help them note what they could be doing better, and then at some cognitive process they eventually master what it is that they're doing that could have been better and start making the better choice and seeing better results.
Yeah, that makes sense. I need to stop playing and start analyzing.
Well, you could play. I'm saying like why are you playing
Oh,
chess? So I'm
analyze
saying
my
like
games
I'm
after.
saying if you want to get better, you get better from study, not from play. And
Right.
even the evidence, like I could show you the studies that so they actually plateau and start to get worse at a certain amount of play. Like if you just play without study, that you actually will
Yeah.
slowly get worse. Like
No, I
maybe like
believe it. Yeah, that makes
um
sense.
and so if you just say I just like chess as a hobby to play for fun or for social as a way to meet people and have a network. But if you want to improve, you got to study. And the process we went through is pretty generic. Having someone like a group like it improved my own thought. Even what like even going over your games will probably improve my game also. And having a group to study with, got Zaraza created the Facebook group, but having a group to study with also improves because the evidence, like I said, deliberate practice, scientific studies, psychological studies have shown for any form of mastery, deliberate practice is what it takes to get better, like playing the violin or something, or basketball, just sitting there shooting three throws by yourself. That's how you get better. um, but there's also the evidence of understanding as a group, and it's not exactly clear the cognitive mechanisms of why it works, but a few different people looking at the position together is also analyzing games as a group is also one of the key methods to getting
Yeah.
better.
I mean, it makes sense adding perspectives. I mean, you're going to look at it with different framework, the game.
Like I always told
See
people when I
different
coach that
level.
the top players almost always go over their games afterwards. And the single best person to go over your game afterwards is with your opponent. Like now COVID-19, but here's like tournament play. Like no one wants to go over their game with your opponent right after the game.
Yeah.
You want to go out and like just concentrated. But the top players, the players that improve, you go over the game with your opponent. Like I had good coaches when I was young, and it was just like the game was over, and you're supposed to ask your opponent if they want to go over the game afterwards, so you don't have to guess what they're thinking. Like you could
Yeah.
discuss that. So I mean that's um, so for tournament play, like going over the game, not just like computer analysis or with your coach. The most important person to go over your game with is actually the person that you played with, and the best time is right after the game. But like internet crazy house, like I've never seen crazy house. You're not going to be in an arena and be like, you want to go over the game afterwards. Like
Yeah.
create like a Zoom call or something to go over the game. But like even like our chess frenemies, like Zaraza or something, because like or I mean call them frenemies because you want to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, chess could only be so friendly because at the end of the day, like if you get put up against you, like I'm gonna want to win, and
Yeah.
like if we're playing, like you're gonna, it doesn't matter if you're playing with your friend, you're still gonna want to win. But that like Okei or something, or people that are more friendly to have a study group. I would do this if you wanted like weekly or bi-weekly. Um,
Yeah.
if there's a group of people, I mean, Pepe is about the same strength as me. I don't know if he streams or if you want to get involved, but just for the sake of improvement, like the house Discord, they got their kind of click, or say like how friendly people are, and a lot of time, people want to win, so they don't want to share their tricks.
Right.
But I'm not. I don't really care. Like I'm a grown man. Like there's no real prize for winning at chess, so I'm more interested in mental improvement. And so I don't mind if there's a group, or if you want to create a group to just go over games,
Yeah.
or other people want to join the call and go over a few games, and then preparation where maybe you would pick a few games that you went over and would have a lesson that would be easy to teach people, which like a common mistake where you saw you could have done something and missed it, or even a great discovery that might be applicable to show people. And then maybe a few difficult games, like this person always beats me. What can I do to
Sure.
don't ask me how to beat the finisher or something. But I've gotten games off the top players, and it's really that method. Like I've gotten at least one game almost off all the top players. Some of them a few games, and it's basically all I did was go over my losses, and eventually I got a better position out of the opening and converted it into a win. And so like even
Yeah.
like the finisher or whoever, like
Marlon,
eventually,
I'd love.
if you keep on going over your games, you'll eventually get a better position out of the opening and be able to convert it into a win.
Yeah. That seems super solid theory. I'd love to do like a bi-weekly get together. That would be great. I want to get better and beat okay and Marlon.
As I mentioned, like Joanna's a chess coach also, and I always tell people, because the two main chess coaches in Michigan are 1,500 players, and they pay, like the stronger players are on their payroll.
Wow,
Um,
that's wild.
that because coaching is more about coaching and pedagogy education
Mhm.
than about being a really good chess player. And if you don't really need a coach that's better than a few hundred points better than you. Like if you're really the rating system, if someone's 400 points better than you, they're expected to win over 90% of the games. So like whatever strength you are, if a person's 500 points higher rated, anything more than that is really overkill. And then it's um, coaching style. People like, okay, like I've been coaching. I went to a special Freudian school, by a student of Freud in Germany as a kid, and I've been studying this type's cognitive development and theories and decision making my whole adult life. Um, so versus like the 1,500, like a math teacher, Coach Fight in Detroit, who was a math teacher his whole life and started chess clubs as in at his math classes, or Dr. Ed Mandel, who has a PhD in education and opened up a chess center, all the Kingsmen chess and brain games, that you don't you could teach hundreds of and most people who need coaching need just the basics. So like saying Joanna teaching someone, getting them up to 1,000, 1,200, if she mastered the skills of doing that, even if she was only a 1,500 player, uh, it's not necessarily clear that like an expert or even a grandmaster would be better at getting people up to 1,000 or 1,200. Saying that there's no clear like that a grandmaster would have any more success getting players up to 1,200 than you would. And you should know that coaching. So like if you're coaching beginning players, it doesn't matter that not necessarily like an expert or master player is going to be a better coach than you are, especially if you're good with kids. Like a lot of times, we have a lot of female chess coaches, and just being good with kids. Like a lot of times, being a good coach is more about being good with kids than being good at chess.
Hey, PKR. Okay, PKR. That's because you're too intimidating. Oh, but yeah, I would love to get to the level where I could beat PKR. Of
He's
course.
got a positive record against me. I look over my games against him. I've never really made a study to like what I would have to do to, but he's got a positive record. I don't know much about him, but like yeah, if anyone wants to join, because like I play chess more for mental acuity. Like I say, I coach in Detroit was a method of giving back, and because chess is relatively still one of my best skills. Like people do urban gardening. I garden and do different things, but like the most impact actually coaching chess seems to be where I could have the most impact. But yeah, anyone who wants to join these, if we wanted to make them regular, and we could switch them off like Russian language or on your channel. For the next one you want to host on your channel, that's fine. Or Okey if he wants to get involved in having kind of like group study sessions where we go over each other's games or talk about ideas. It's probably that from the evidence would most likely, like I said, Joanna, like I don't see any reason why you couldn't get up to 2,000 within a few months.
Yeah.
If you had if you did these regular study sessions and had a group of strong players to study with, obviously. So if then you have to see why you play chess. It's like if you just play chess because you want to win, you study. Why do you want to win so bad? And then the diminishing returns, like okay, then you're going to 2,000, and then what? You're going to beat PKR, and then what? Then you're going to want to beat the finisher, and like
Finisher, yeah.
and like then what? And then like eventually you beat the finisher. Like what are you going to tell your mom? You retire. You're going to try to explain to someone why beating the finisher is an accomplishment.
Get something on my fridge there for that game. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I'd love to get something regular going. This is good. This is fun.
Yeah, I mean, Joanna's a streamer. Like you probably get more live viewers even than me on Twitch. So if you wanted to try one of these on your channel, like I'm happy to join, or you could get
Yeah.
You're best off if we get a recurring cast of characters
Sure.
that maybe Igor or PK, any Okey or any people, and then you could change it up and try to be regular if you do it like weekly, and then you could have like a rotating cast of characters, or even try multiple having a bigger panel, like 4 or 6 people on a panel, and then sometimes you have a lot of ideas that group think 4 or 5 people looking at a position, you might come up with something that even 2 stronger players don't come up with.
Yeah, definitely. I see a lot of potential benefit to this. Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me on and sharing.
Yeah, I used to coach chess on Fridays, and it's saying like the COVID-19 is almost the Detroit Institute of Arts. My mother was the attorney for, and they had a big chess program. It was very popular. We had some of the top students in Detroit, and COVID-19 has been shut down a year and a half now, and the representative from the museum said that it's unlikely to open up till even spring next year. So unfortunately, it's unlikely I'm going to be doing any coaching. I like doing it at the museum, like just to mention, like you could do the same thing that but I did it like 1,000 times, and it really one of my favorite things to do, because we play in the museum, and a lot of kids I've been working with for quite a bit of time, either some of them are pretty strong, even like close to 2,000, but even like 1,200, your average museum goer walks by and they see chess and like, oh, let's play a game, and
Yeah.
they put them against the kid, and then a 10-year-old kid
Crushes them.
beats. Yeah, but and I've been to me it's almost obvious, because the rating system,
Right.
and even if the person's like a doctor, a professional, an accomplished person,
Yeah.
one of the girls drew the mayor, and the mayor even played chess competitively as a kid, but the mayor had played competitively chess as a kid. He only got a draw. But if your average professional intelligent person is really going to lose, and it's not expected, your average person, like, oh, this 10-year-old kid from Detroit, there's no way they would beat me at chess, and it's almost like a given that the kid is always going to win.
It's a good ego check.
Yes, I love doing that. I've done it like 1,000. I literally did it like 10, 20 times every Friday for years. Did it probably over 1,000 times, but unfortunately COVID-19, it's not going to happen again for months. So streaming or whatever, it's tough to know what's gonna be. But any final words, any comments? I'll let you close it out, and then maybe next week we'll do it again if you want to on your channel.
I could do bi-weekly on Fridays. That'd be a little easier for me. But yeah, I don't really have anything closing to say. Thank you. This was fun. I definitely enjoyed myself, and I'm excited to play and more and more.
You're a popular. I mean, you're a more popular chess streamer than I am. I was trying, and like joined. We friended each other on Facebook, and so I'm posting all this debate stuff, and like obviously I'm a religious man. I believe in like mystical stuff, and Joanna, I guess she's got a degree in biology, and she believes in evolution. And I've been trying to recommend she. I mean, I'm not sure. It doesn't have to do with that she should become a debater, and I mean, because she was debating with me on Facebook in the message board, like because she saw I didn't believe in evolution or
Oh,
about various things. I was like,
yeah.
you should join the debate circuits. So
Consciousness, I think neuroscience is what
yeah,
we
and
first started on. Yeah.
so we'll see that if that interests you to step up and to
Thank
sign up for a debate, and it could be evolution or some topic, and just enter the arena, pick a topic, and do a debate. Also, like I enjoy that even more than chess.
Okay. I definitely enjoy it.
Well, I haven't seen you do that yet. I
Well,
mean,
I
I thought you might enjoy
get
that because you're a
nervous.
good chess streamer, and yet you're intelligent. You have a degree in biology, have thoughts on issues that you might be a good debater. I mean, so I don't know if you ever did debate in high school or public debate, but yeah, you'd probably be good
Yeah,
at it.
I did. I was a good cross examiner. So it's
So
just
maybe we'll arrange one of those. You debate Jennifer or something like that, and
oh, I
I
don't know.
mean, Jennifer is already an accomplished debater on
Oh,
debating against
she
evolution.
scares me.
But yeah, and Jennifer scares you. But she like she's ready to take all takers who want to argue in favor of evolution.
Oh, okay. Oofta.
Okay, so have a great weekend, and I'm
Yeah,
gonna
you too.
end the stream. I put Joanna's link on Twitch. She's a Twitcher because she's more like a gamer in chess. So most of the chess players are Twitchers, as we're YouTube. I'm more YouTuber. If you do want to YouTube, if you're not a tech person, I could walk you through StreamYards or how to put your stuff on YouTube. If you did do debate, you're probably better off on YouTube
Yeah,
than Twitch. I mean, the gaming's better for Twitch, and then
yeah. I see that.
her link is in the chat, and that's for Twitch.
All
So have
right.
a great weekend, and thanks,
Thank you.
Joanna, for joining. Let's see. Hopefully this pays off. Like maybe you'll start getting the upper hand against Okey a few games, or Zaraza.
Reach for PKR.
Start seeing like I don't see any reason why you like as to like like there's low hanging fruit. And if you start analyzing your games on your own, just I think you'll see immediate improvement, maybe even of 100 points.
Would be nice. Would be nice. All right. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, thanks a lot. Have a great weekend.
You too.